This is the KJ Singh Show with your host, KJ Singh. So our society is pretty much, especially considering that capitalism is our operating system, when profit over people is the modus operandi. Recently, we saw a report that showed record levels of sewage outspill into our rivers and streams. This is from the numbers of sewage outspills last year, where we saw almost 500,000, equaling to more than 3 million hours of sewage outspill, which is almost double the previous year of 2022. And it just goes to show that our so-called Conservative Party are not really conserving our nature. What exactly are they conserving? And as these sewage outspills go into our rivers and streams, and our seas, of course, every time our family or family members go out to sea, they are to encounter this kind of byproduct of our capitalistic system. And even if you are, somewhat of a climate skeptic, which, I have a thing or two to say to you about that. But even if you were to just, understand at an elementary level, having poo and pee in your rivers and streams is actually not particularly good for your health. Not just poo and pee, but just chemical products released into our rivers and streams. Then, clearly you can understand this is a huge issue. And it's not, it's not a surprise. The Tory party are the party of profit, and it seems that the Labour Party are heading that direction. As the Green Party say that whatever they put forward, the Labour Party, whatever they put forward in their pledge to cut sewage emissions, cut sewage outpours, it's nowhere near enough. And obviously, Tories are the worst culprit. Last year, there was a report that showed they received 3.5 million from polluting and environmentally destructive organizations that thrive on climate change denial or pollution denial. And this seems to be par for the course when you have a system that is about the profit of a few over the interests of the many. And I think this meme in particular comes to mind. We've come to a point in our human society where not just in this circumstance in terms of reduction of pollution, but also the reduction of colonialism and its harmful effects on humankind, obviously, and its repercussions of you overspill of refugees into other countries that will lead to other forms of instability. Think Rwanda genocide. Following Rwanda genocide of 1994, we saw the refugee crisis overspill into Democratic Republic of Congo, and that's how the situation regarding the crisis in the Congo arose, because of course people from the Hutu tribe had to escape the oncoming potential pogroms by the Tutsis, who were at the receiving end of a genocide. So this is the refugee crisis will lead to greater issues down the line, and obviously in Palestine, where we've got the onslaught of a war of genocide on a largely civilian population, where almost 36 or more than 36,000 people have been killed, including 14,000 children, more than 9,000 women. And nothing is to be said about this from the liberal centrists who care about the Me Too movement or the women's rights movement. They are about virtue signaling. They're about identity politics without substance. They're about supporting the status quo of the power structures in play in our society. So what do you expect? And often, I mean, I don't believe that money is the root of all evil. I think I think money can help facilitate evil, and that's the issue rather with our systems in our in today's society, across the world. How money is the substrate with which evil can spread, because evil exists because of the fact that there are people out there who are damaged, who are traumatized. The psychologist, psychotherapist Gabor Mate talks about trauma and how trauma can lead to situations where you have almost like a psychotic kind of episode as a result of trauma you may have suffered, and it that in this society that we live in, which is heavily stratified, that benefits those who already have the wealth, and it creates kind of like a caste system by proxy. It leads to a situation where society is run by often psychopathic types of people. The psychology of politicians is quite interesting to study, because you'll find that a large proportion of those people in who are politicians will have psychopathic traits higher than the average population, and that's, if I say this, this is not a surprise to anyone watching, because it follows that because our society is capitalistic, right? Or rather, it puts capital as the predominant force with which our values are based on. It's not based on humanitarian values. It's not based on equality. It's not based on well-being of the society. Naturally, because of course, then we would have the Green Party in power. We would have a party that supports the ceasefire, a party that supports the decommissioning of this occupational regime. No, we don't have that in place. We don't have a society that is run with moral courage. It's about having whoever has the last laugh with how much money you've got in your bank. So, and this is the reason why I think Labour Party are moving this direction, because they know this is how they'll get power. And they say, protest doesn't give you power. It's being a sensible character. Power over politics, power over protest. However, when you go down that route, then it comes, then it follows that you are more interested in doing the business of big business. Then they won't do enough with regards to pollution out spills. Then they won't do enough regards to the Gaza situation. And of course, there's millions. No, actually, correct me. Actually, there's a potential for hundreds of billions to be made from the Gaza oil shores off the Gaza Strip, because of course originally it was within the exclusive economic zone of Gaza. This huge amount of oil that's off the shore, and of course since this genocidal campaign against Gaza, it has fallen into magically fallen into the jurisdiction of Israel. Yeah, so it's definitely a war of defense. Definitely, those luxury waterfront properties are definitely a consequence of a defensive war, for their own security. Only that it's a continuation of the colonial empire that we've seen from 75 years plus. One could say more than 100 years, because of course prior to that we had the Balfour Declaration, and of course we had all these different emerging philosophies that we fall under the broad term that we call Zionism, which basically was about an entitlement to a land that was already occupied by other people. But I'll be doing more videos on that particular subject, because of course it's very interesting how this entitlement to a land is also part of the same it's part of the same philosophy of not respecting life, not respecting the order of things, in terms of a consideration for the environment, because of course This was in the same way that capitalism is colonial by nature. It's about spreading and it's about maximizing its profits. There are people who want to maximize their profits by expanding into Israel. And of course, it's not a surprise that Israel is a defensive military kind of subject of the US empire, which of course is like an outpost for the Western form of imperialism. But to go back to the Western, our domestic issues of pollution, that is merely a consequence of this profit over people narrative that is facilitated by money and greed. And all it really says about our society is that we need desperate change, and Labour are not doing enough, and that it overspills into other subjects, not just Gaza. There's also the issue of Kleenex. Kleenex, the company that's probably the furthest away from something malicious. It's about hygiene and cleanliness. It's about the softest tissue. Only that they are being sued right now for the release of forever chemicals into rivers and streams in the US, because of course when the profit incentive is the most important thing, then it follows that you will cut corners to ensure that you expedite the process towards releasing that product, getting the results. Of course, you have to deal with the shareholders and maximizing profit for them. So you will have to cut corners to release that product. Now, fortunately, there are consumer protection laws so that some companies like Kleenex won't have formaldehyde or poisonous subjects, poisonous ingredients within their own products. But there are kind of iffy laws or regulatory loopholes that allow them, amongst other companies like Chevron, Texaco, to really do things behind the scenes that they will obviously deny. But things like forever chemicals, which fall are basically a collection of chemicals that cause things like that also subsist in the environment, but cause issues like birth defects, cancer, other health, endocrine disorders, hormonal disorders, and this obviously has an impact on the health of society. But without a true regulatory framework, without something, a kind of philosophy of a society that puts the well-being of society, well-being of the environment before the profit incentive, then really we are really going to be destroying ourselves. And there's a really good Serge Tankian song called I believe it's called Seppuku, and it's about basically on capitalism. But it's very easy to beat the drum on capitalism and say it's the worst thing ever. But for me, it's like how capitalism is used, and how capitalism is used to dehumanize others, to destroy the environment. So we need serious rethinking of our laws, and we need a society that puts the values and principles of human beings and environment, because of course we come from the planet Earth, apparently, not obviously, but according to those who are the profit incentivized big corporate bigwigs, the fat cats, they see themselves as transcendent to nature, which is part of a huge issue that will lead us to our catastrophe. And I feel like we will have some form of environmental catastrophe in the form of climate change. Obviously we were experiencing climate change already, because of course we're hitting record levels. But I think we will reach a certain tipping point which may not be good for our human species. I think our society will be thinned out, and we'll have to learn from those consequences. Just as we learned from World War II, how we treated each other, and then we had a period of civil rights. We had a period of a progressive era where we had worker rights. We had a period of a socialized healthcare system. But whilst that's being reeled back right now, I think we're going to have to brace ourselves for impact with regards to a more serious climate catastrophe. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope I'm proven wrong. But I feel like we need a real makeover in terms of our ideology. We need a real revolution. And time will tell if that happens. But anyways, until then, I'll be doing videos on this particular subject and the problems of capitalism for the long term future. So stay tuned. And please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated.